Are Real Madrid capable of winning the Club World Cup? Xabi Alonso's team is now in Florida and they're ready to play the first match versus Al Hilal on Wednesday. And with so many changes with the Real Madrid squad this season, who do we need to keep an eye on? Get off, I think most of the spotlight will be on Xabi Alonso. Xabi Alonso led Bayer Leverkusen the previous 2 seasons and he saw a lot of success. Now there's a lot of people that doubt his ability to lead a team with the demanding nature that Real Madrid has. I think there's a couple factors that everyone will keep an eye on. Number one, Xabi Alonso's tactical approach. Everyone is curious to know if Xabi Alonso will utilize the same tactics and the same formation that he used with Bayer Leverkusen, that three at the back formation, or if he will adapt to this Real Madrid squad and approach it in a more conservative formation like the 4-4-2 diamond, or if he will stick to Ancelotti's beloved 4-3-3. And with the formation, obviously the starting 11 is going to be a lot to talk about. Most importantly, Rodrigo. If he starts with that 4-3-3, everyone will start talking about how Rodrigo will be an absolutely crucial figure for Xabi Alonso. If he does play a formation that does not include a right wing, then we'll see a lot of headlines saying that Rodrigo has been shown the exit, and we'll see the transfer rumors completely shoot up. The other factor that will be considered is Xabi Alonso's reaction to the opponent. Now this ties into the tactical approach, but let's go in with the assumption that we're playing a team that has a very solid low defensive block, which we constantly see in La Liga. We see clubs like Getafe, Mallorca, Atletico Madrid play with 5 to 7 defenders in their own box, a very cohesive line, and it's very difficult for Real Madrid to be creative and score. Now in this instance, how will Xabi Alonso adapt? What instructions will he provide to the team? Will he change formation? This is something that Ancelotti never did. He never adjusted the formation within the game. He adjusted the players very late on, but he never adjusted the tactical approach. And that ties into yet another point. How will Xabi Alonso handle substitutions? Now, one of Ancelotti's biggest criticisms the previous seasons, especially with Real Madrid, was his lack of rotation. Not only lack of rotation in the sense of the starting 11, but also in his substitutions. Every player that he substituted was brought in the 85th minute and passed. It's difficult for them to go into the game, pick up the rhythm, and provide some change that the squad needed. The journalists and the paper headlines will be questioning Xabi Alonso's formation. Why? Because the starting formation will showcase what his long-term plans are in terms of the players and the transfer market strategy. Obvious that Real Madrid has heavily invested in the transfer market, and there's rumors that Xabi Alonso is still pushing for a backup striker, a natural 9, and a center mid. Now, in order to keep funding these transfers, somebody obviously has to move. And back to the point, if we see Xabi Alonso approach this with a formation with four midfielders and no right wing, then we'll quickly see the headlines start gravitating towards Rodrigo and pushing him towards an exit. Real Madrid squad, and you think, what other player would bring in a significant amount of income to help push for the market strategy? And the only other option would be Tchouaméni or Eduardo Camavinga. And I think both of those players will be absolutely crucial for Xabi Alonso. At the Club World Cup, let's take a look at who the surprising player will be, in my opinion. And I think the surprise player for the Club World Cup will be Fran Garcia. Now, I say this because Fran Garcia is a guaranteed starter due to Ferland Mendy's injury. Now, we do have Camavinga, who seems to have recovered and is capable of playing that left back role. And I think Fran Garcia can do exceptionally well, especially if we do a 3 at the back formation. Fran Garcia can play that Grimaldo role, push forward and offer support in attack. So Fran Garcia's 3rd season at the club, he's already in his mid-20s, and I think now is the time to showcase what he's actually capable of. Now, his capabilities may only be a Real Madrid bench rotational player, but that's absolutely top level. For the biggest surprise, we have Fran Garcia, but I've been very vocal about Tchouaméni being a key player for Xabi Alonso. I don't think that's going to be necessarily a surprise. I think a lot of people are expecting him to perform at that top level, as he has been performing the previous months after receiving heavy criticism the first half of the season. So I do think the other surprise will be Eduardo Camavinga. I think Eduardo Camavinga will see a lot of playtime under Xabi Alonso, As I mentioned, he can play that defensive mid role. He can play that box-to-box mid. He can play that left-back role as well. So Xabi Alonso being very tactically flexible. If he plays a 3 at the back formation, if he plays a 4-4-2 with a box-to-box mid, or if he plays with a defensive mid, regardless of what the approach is, I think Camavinga will be absolutely crucial. We know Camavinga has the ability to perform at the top level. We saw him shut down PSG when he was about 16, 17 years old, when Kylian Mbappe played on that team. And we know that he has the ability to perform at this Real Madrid. We saw it in the Champions League. We saw him perform exceptionally well against Manchester City in that comeback. We haven't seen the consistency, and I think last season was his worst season yet, and that was partially due to injuries. So I think Xabi Alonso will approach this in a couple different ways, a couple different roles to place Camavinga in. But overall, I think he will show him that he's an important figure in this Real Madrid team, and I think Camavinga will rise to the occasion and perform. My 2 surprises would be Fran Garcia and Eduardo Camavinga. Now it's time to discuss the potential flops that we'll discover during the Club World Cup. Xabi Alonso will be very strategic with the new transfers. He'll ease them into the games. He'll be very mindful of what role he's requesting from them to try to protect them from the headlines that Real Madrid naturally brings. Players like Dean Huijsen being so young, players like Trent Alexander-Arnold, who was very criticized for joining Real Madrid, they're going to have headlines, they're going to have opposing fans just waiting for them to make a mistake to blow up on social media. I think Xabi Alonso will handle their playing time and their integration into the team in a great manner. So personally, I think the flop for the Club World Cup will be Rodrigo. If Xabi Alonso decides to approach this without a right wing, then we'll see the headlines, the media, Rodrigo's camp, everyone absolutely talking and starting up rumors about Rodrigo moving or being unhappy. I think we'll unsettle Rodrigo this summer, and it will lead to his potential departure. However, if Xabi Alonso does decide to start with the right wing and showcases Rodrigo that he's part of the long-term strategy, then I think Rodrigo can do pretty well. But let's keep in mind that he is playing up top with Mbappe and Vini, who are absolutely untouchable starters. Mbappe and Vini are the future and the stars of this Real Madrid team. So naturally, I think whatever tactical approach any manager places out there, Mbappe and Vini will naturally get the headlines. Even if Rodrigo performs to a decent standard, headlines will gravitate towards Mbappe and Vini, and they'll downplay Rodrigo's effort. And again, that can mess with him mentally and affect his ability on the pitch. As I mentioned before, one of the potential signings that Xabi Alonso wants to push for is a midfield signing. As of now, everyone knows Luka Modric will be playing his last tournament with Real Madrid during the Club World Cup. We do have Dani Ceballos, who has played a more important role in the previous seasons. So I think this tournament will see the pressure mount on Ceballos and expect him to perform at a top level. Now, I don't doubt Dani Ceballos' ability to perform at a top level, but what we do doubt is his consistency. I don't have anyone with that tactical profile like a Toni Kroos or a Luka Modric. I think the closest player to that is Dani Ceballos. And in my opinion, Dani Ceballos has always been a rotational player. We can't rely on Dani Ceballos to consistently go out on that pitch, which is something this Real Madrid team has absolutely lacked when Luka Modric is not on the pitch. When I say Dani Ceballos will flop this summer, I don't think that he'll necessarily perform horribly. I think he'll perform at a decent level, but it'll be quite clear that that position can be absolutely strengthened, and it'll be clear that if this team wants to see massive success next season, especially against the top teams like PSG, Manchester City, Barcelona, etc., we'll need that midfield profile to help dictate the play, the tempo, and provide some creativity. We need a midfielder that is comfortable on that ball, that demands the ball, that can play short passes, that can switch the play, that can play quick transitions, etc. All in all, those are my predictions for the Club World Cup. As I mentioned, I think the signings will be absolutely fine. I think Xabi Alonso will be mindful that they're adapting to a new team, a new culture, and to a new coach.